Alright, so today I'm making a fan shroud for the radiator, and I may have to put the fan in kind of like a corner of the thing or the top to get it to fit with my application. So yeah, but anyways, I just took measurements of the radiator and I'm going to cut the fan shroud to fit and then make a way for it to attach, and then I can just bolt the fan to the shroud. And you always want to have a fan shroud. That's a huge part of your cooling system. Like you can't run effectively without it. So yep, gonna make a fan shroud, and basically I just got the radiator measured out and I'm just going to mark it up and cut it and fold it so that it's a nice shroud and I can cut the hole for the fan. Alright, so I finished my radiator shroud, well, the initial shape of it anyways, and it's just that piece of sheet metal that I showed you, and I just did a lot of measuring, cutting, folding, actually most planning. The actual molding of it wasn't that difficult. I just put it up to the edge of a table and just bashed it to as fine of a line as I could get it. And it came out pretty well. The good thing is, even though it's not that thick, when you bash it into a shape like this, it creates a lot of rigidity, so I'm not worried about it being able to hold the fan, which also came in today. So now I'm just going to bolt it up to the radiator and then test fit it with the fan and see where I have room for it. Then I'll know where to cut the hole for the fan, and we can get this thing installed for good. So that's what I'm doing. So I've got the radiator with its shroud and fan all test fitted in there, and it's a very tight fit, but it does. The main thing it gets close to is the charge pipe off the turbo, but should be all right. It looks like it actually is gonna rest against it a little bit, but should be okay. I'm gonna move it as far up as I can and just cut a hole for it, get it mounted up, and put this thing in there for good. Alright, so I made some progress on the coolant reservoir. Got this thing glued in with PVC cement, and it's threaded so I can put that cap on. So while that's drying, I also made this part over here. It's got the tube coming out the middle for drain, and then this tube right here for feed from the radiator. And those are just JB welded on real good, and I've got to sit propped over here so that none of it moves. So I'm just going to let that all sit over here and dry while Luna guards it. And in the meantime, I've gotten a few things done here. I got the wiring run for the alternator. It's plugged in and ready to go. And got the fan shroud and fan bolted up to the radiator, and the radiator's in. So that's all good to go. And then I was looking at the battery and decided that I don't have any room for the coolant reservoir with the battery in here. And I've been wanting to put it in the truck anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I took the battery out and then just grounded the ground cable right here. Used a file to get it to bare metal and grounded it right here. And then I'm going to ground it in the trunk where the battery's going. And then I just got this audio wire from when I used to have a sub in here, and I've just got the power wire extended all the way to the back here. And so I've got a terminal on it there, and I just need to scrape and ground a spot back here and make a terminal for the ground cable, and then I can just mount the battery back here. But I want to make kind of a spot for it to sit so it's not going to fall over. So I took measurements on all the sides of it. It was 7 by 9.5 inches, if anybody cares. And I've got those all marked on here, so I'm going to chop these out and then make a little box for it to sit in, and probably use a ratchet strap or something to hold it down. So that's the plan. Alright, so here's the coolant expansion tank as it looks now. We've got this piece on the side where the coolant will come into the tank, and then there's this internal drain piece, which is just, as soon as the coolant gets up to that level, it's just going to drain at the bottom. That's all there is to it. It's kind of messy, need to clean it up a little bit, and I'll paint this thing. Basically, that's it. And here's where the cap threads on. And I'm just going to, I've got this all glued together, and I'm just going to glue this to the top of that, and then let it dry, and that'll be the whole thing. So yeah, cheap coolant expansion tank. Like I said, check out the Premium Fuel Mag channel, because he's the one that came up with this idea. I'm just borrowing it. So all right, got a lot of stuff done. I worked on the gauges on the inside of the car, and they, as far as I know, are all wired up and ready to go with power and ground and everything. And also this switch is for the radiator fan, so we'll see if all that or any of that or none of that works. And then of course the radiator fan is wired up, ready to go, and we've got the coolant overflow tank finished and installed. Once the water fills up to this line, it'll drain out that tube, and then I've got it connected with this line from O'Reilly's to the bottom, so it should function as the factory one did. And to install it, I just screwed a hose clamp to the side of the frame rail there and tightened it up, so it's pretty sturdy. It's not going anywhere. So other than that, I took the spark plug boots off and wrapped them with some stuff to keep them from melting because they're so close to the headers. And before I plug them back in, I'm going to go ahead and crank the engine over some so that I can prime the turbo. And speaking of the turbo, I also put the, probably can't really see it. Speaking of the turbo, I also put the oil drain line on and installed it with clamps. So it should be ready to go. Thank you. No. So it should be ready to go. I'm gonna crank the engine over a few times to get some oil pressure in the turbo, and then I'm gonna put the spark plug boots back on and put the exhaust and wideband sensor back on, and crank this thing up and see what works. Hopefully everything. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And the battery is also installed in the rear with terminals and stuff ready to go. So we'll see. We're about to see if a lot of stuff works. Hopefully all of it. So wish me luck. Alright, so got everything connected up. Oil feed and drain, coolant reservoir. I took the plugs off and primed the system, and then put these heat wrap things on the plugs and plug them back in. So should be ready to start. Turbo should have oil. I'm just gonna crank it up and see what happens, and I've got a list of things to check here. Alternator gauges. I already tried the fans. I know they work. Check for leaks and overheating. Just to check and see what's working, see what's not, so I can know what my next steps are with this thing. So here goes the first start with the turbo on the car. So it seems like the battery's a little dead from sitting for so long, so I'm gonna put it on the battery charger for a bit and then try again and see what we can get. So I fabbed up this bracket that holds the throttle bracket to the throttle body, and I don't remember where it attached the other one. I guess it attached to the EGR, but I don't have an EGR spacer on this setup, so I just made this little bracket to hold it all together. So hopefully it works, and I can actually use the inside throttle instead of having somebody out here holding it. And the battery should be good and charged up now, so I'm going to give this thing another go to start. And also I should probably plug the TPS in. Probably be good. So yeah. Anyways, here we go. Alrighty, so that was pretty successful. We determined that all of the gauges work. All the gauges work, and the alternator does charge. So now we just need to fix the leaks and see if it overheats once those are fixed. And it was pissing out oil, and I was looking, and there was oil on top of the turbo. And then I noticed that I never did tighten this fitting right here all the way. So I tightened that up. I'm gonna start the car again and see if that leaks. So here we go.